Well, I'm Ella Watts from Gravity FM, and I'm talking, it's a great privilege actually, I'm talking to Dr. Gervase Phinn. Now, have I said that correctly?
No, you haven't, Ella.
Oh, well, come on, please.
No, it's Gervase Phinn.
It's Gervase
But it should be
Phinn.
pronounced, if it's in English, as Gervase. My parents always called me Gervase, but it became Gervase over the years, but it's either.
It is an English name, isn't it?
It's an English name, it's Old English name, it's Norman French.
It does sound a little bit French.
There was a good few Gervases with William the Conqueror, but I'm unique in being the only Gervase from Rotherham. You see, my parents had a sense of humour calling me Gervase, I think. It's an old name. It means spear carrier.
So your background is actually...
It's Rotherham.
You've come a long way.
Well, one likes to think so, but I mean, I was very fortunate because I had amazing parents. I mean, my father never smacked me, ever. He didn't believe in it. He never swore. He was a great reader. He loved poetry, and I had the best mum in the world. And we all did very well. I'm the least able of the four children. My eldest sister's exceptionally bright and did her A-levels a year early. Very clever. Went scholarship to Notre Dame. Two brothers. Michael, metallurgist, owns steelworks, and Alec, a professional musician who tours the world. And then I came along the fourth and the least able. So it was nice because I've always been in the shadow of my siblings. Not minded that. They've always said, "Are you Christine's brother?" Or "Are you Michael's brother?" "Are you Alec's brother?" But now, when my books did well, they say the opposite, you see.
Oh, of course you do. I think you throw a pretty big shadow yourself now.
Well,
I've got you down here as a presenter, a writer, and an educationalist.
yeah, any of those. I mean, a teacher I would put first and foremost because I still work in schools and I still love the company of young people, and also I love teaching, and I'm very optimistic about young people, and I just love the company of youngsters.
And you write some quite educational books as well.
Yes, I read academic books. I mean, people say, "Oh, well, read all your books." Well, actually, I think the last count is about 98. But those are picture books, story books, poems, and academic books that, the reading resource or something on poetry, a book on teaching of poetry. So, so I've done quite a few.
Well, I know you've done a lot of poetry books. What was the poetry that inspired you?
The poetry inspired me. When I was young, my father used to recite poems. He'd come in and do a little poem such as, "Oh, mother dear, what have we here that looks like strawberry jam? Hush, hush, my dear, it's poor papa run over by the tram." And he'd little quatrains, and then he'd do the great monologues, The Lion and Albert. There's a famous seaside place called Blackpool that's noted for its vegetarian pub, and The Green Eye, the Little Yellow Garden, The Highwayman, and The Lady of Shalott. And I grew up with lots of poetry, lots of Irish poetry too, and a lot of the lyrics of the songs my father would sing were very, very poetic. They were lyrical. He'd sing one, "My mother's love is a blessing," and it's to an old Irish tune, "Wherever you may roam, keep her while she's living, for you'll miss her when she's gone. Love her as in childhood when she's feeble, old and grey, for you'll always miss a mother's love when she's buried beneath the clay." It's rather a blunt ending. But I loved poetry. And you saw poetry all around you as a child. All the jingles like "A million housewives every day. Pick up a tin of beans and say, beans means nice."
Nobody ever forgets that,
Or Murray mince, too good to hurry mince. Or "If Ma might give me Marmite for my breakfast, if Ma might give me Marmite for my tea, if Ma might give me Marmite for my supper, how happy I and Pa and Ma might be." Clever, very, very clever lyrics and catchy tunes that you never forget. These jingles had rhythm and rhyme, and I started writing poetry, and I love writing poetry. I still write, and so it's my first love, that, yes.
And what was the first book that you wrote?
First book was when I was 27. I was on a deputy head's training course, and a man opposite me didn't say anything, but just listening to me telling stories about school and so on. And he said, "Have you written any stories?" And I said, "I have." He said, "Are they published?" I said, No, I just write them for my students." And he said, "Well, I'd be interested to see them." So at 27, I had a collection of stories published called The Last Laugh, which is now out of print. And then the next year I did some more, then more editing, and it kind of snowballed. But my books became bestsellers because of one person, really.
You?
No, Esther Ranson.
Really?
Yeah, I'm seeing Esther in a couple of weeks. I owe a massive debt to Esther Ranson. I'd written maybe 30 books. They'd not really sold much at all, educational books and so on. Nobody knew me. And then I did a charity talk for Childline. I'm a patron of Childline. And Esther Ranson was in the audience, and all I remember were these teeth and shining eyes. And she said, "Will you come on my show?" And I went on 3 times, and I had so many letters And then, of course, I had the publishers who said, we'd like to, about 4 publishers, we'd like you to write a book for us. Can you imagine how I must have felt? Just to actually say, well, you don't need to send anything in, just come down and talk to us. And I went to Penguin and I had afternoon tea with James Herriot and Miss Reed, who had read the first two or three chapters that I'd written, and they said they loved it. And I just was over the moon and passed a contract across and said, take it home and read it. And I said, no, I'll sign it because you might change your mind. And the rest was history. They became bestsellers, and one became a number 1 bestseller. And that was because Esther Hansen gave me the opportunity to go on the television. That makes the difference.
So did you say you've written 98 books?
I've written picture books and story books and novels, short novels, novellas. I've written edited collections and textbooks for schools. I never stopped writing. I don't know what the term would be, but somebody who constantly has to write. I have to do it. I don't watch television very much at all. We have a television in just the corner of the kitchen, not in the lounge or anything. If I don't watch it, I watch 1 or 2 programmes that my wife records for me. Like Downton Abbey, maybe. Or Dad's Army. I love that Dad's Army.
And what's your latest book?
Well, I've got 2 out at the moment. One is called The School Inspector Calls, which is the 3rd in a series of 5 novels centred on a little village school and how it develops and changes when a new head teacher starts, Elizabeth Devine. And that's got various characters that I've developed and drawn. The old maid who's the chair of governors, the woman in the corner shop who is a conduit of all gossip. She has a great bay window of a bust which she lifts and places on the counter between the ham and the newspapers, and she knows everything. There's the cynic, the old farmer. There's the teachers in the school, but really there's the children, which are the great themes of the book, really.
You've written some wonderful things for children. One that really caught my imagination was A Wain in a Manger.
Well, I'm going to write the sequel to that for next Christmas. It's just a collection of, as you know, little anecdotes and stories and poems just about Christmas. Celebrate the most important festival, of course, for me. It's a Christian. It was a delight, and people write to me, and vicars use it, and priests and others, and they can use it without copyright. They don't need to clear of copyright if they use it but provided they just make a small donation to a charity. The other book I've got out at the moment is just come out, is Mangled English, and that is a misuse of the English language for comic effect. The malapropisms, the woman on the bus into Doncaster who says to a friend, she's been married 8 years and nothing's happened, She said, I think she's impregnable. The other one said, well, perhaps she needs to have that VHS treatment, or the malapropism and the euphemism and all these also there's different kinds of figurative uses, like the monde green that nobody's ever heard of. The monde green is when you hear something and repeat it incorrectly to comic effect. So a little girl in the school said to me, I said, we're going to sing a hymn this morning. I said, what's it called? It's the Damp Settee. I said, I don't think I know that. And when she started to sing, it was, I am the Lord of the Damp Settee. Now that's a monde green. So Mangled English is doing very well at the moment. And it's just one to dip into, funny stories, euphemisms, malapropisms, spoonerisms, misuse of language, because it's a tricky, troublesome business.
Do you take a pen with you?
Always. You can see in front of you now, Ella, you can see my little black notebook, which goes everywhere with me. I've got about 30 of these. And if I come across anything that I think might be used for a story or a character, it goes in. Today at a book signing, a woman came up to me and said, I just thought I'd tell you that my sister thinks your books are very funny, but they don't make me laugh. It just goes in my little book, And when I'm thinking of writing something, I would flick through it and always get ideas from it, really.
You've done some work with your son as well.
Well, yes, the front cover of the latest one, the School Inspector Calls, Matthew's done the front cover of that. He's a watercolour artist. But in Mangled English, he's done all the illustrations, which are wonderful. I love it. I would say that, but that's my son, but they are quite wonderful. And he's done a portrait of me for a bit of fun. I was joking to him. I said, when I'm dead and gone and your mother is going to remarry, I was joking. Well, right at the moment, I said I want a portrait over the mantelpiece, glowering, looking down,
with eyes that follow you.
Yes, eyes that follow you around the room. And he did it for a bit of fun. It's absolutely stunning. and it was accepted for the Sunday Times watercolour competition, and it was exhibited in the Mall in London. So you go in and you see me glowering.
You've written an autobiography as well.
The autobiography, the memoir, is called Road to the Dales, the story of a Yorkshire lad.
You were a regular columnist.
Oh yes, I was for the Yorkshire Post for about 4 years, but I did about, must have been over 100 articles, but you run out. And I'm the Countryman and the Dalesman, but you know, we've got a deadline to say, but it's got to be in by Thursday. You feel a bit precious.
And how do you exactly keep up with your schedule? Because I've had a look at it online, and it's phenomenal.
Well, I keep up with it, but I just have a diary. People say, well, I don't really do much else. I read a lot. I go to the theatre. I go down to London quite a bit to stay with my sons, who take me out for the theatre and museums. But I'm not a person that watches television, and a lot of the time is taken up with that. So I get up at 6 and I go to bed at 12. So there's lots of time in between to write and read, isn't there? I meet people and they are famous because of television, but I don't know who they are. And they look at me and say, but don't you know? No, I've no idea who you are.
Well, I know you've got to go and do the performance very, very shortly.
Yeah.
So one more anecdote. What's your favourite little story?
Well, the recent one was a little girl in school, and she was a 4-year-old in a nursery in Arlington, and said to her, hello. I said, what's your name? She said, Chelsea. I said, hello, Chelsea. Hello. And she was putting dry sand in a bucket, and I said, what are you doing like that? She said, I'm making sandcastles. So you're not doing very well, Chelsea, are you? No, because my sand keeps coming out. So what you have to do to make a really good sandcastle is put some water with it. Don't want to. So you put some water with your sand and mix it together. Sticks the sand together, you see, makes a nice sandcastle. Don't want to. I said, you want to put some water? She said, don't want to. I said, I'll show you what to do. And I put some water from the water tray with the sand, mixed it together, made a perfect sandcastle. I said, now you have a go, Chelsea. Don't want to. So I said, why don't you want to do that? She said, because Jamie's just weeding the water tray, she said. Now, the innocence of children, and the teacher looks at me and gives that wry smile. And I think you learn more from young children, as Oscar Wilde said, than you ever do from adults, because they don't know about skin colour, race, background, religion. They don't know about status. They don't know. All the little one wants is lots of love, and to be fed and kept warm, and you smile at the little face like that little 4-year-old, and the smile is usually returned. Not always, because some children have a desperate life, but the majority of children. And I think that children do deserve the best the world can give them. And as I say, I'm patron of a number of children's charities, and some do not. It depresses me and saddens me that there's still not an understanding when a little boy who comes in a very poor area, a very dysfunctional family, and this very smelly little boy is only 6, 7, clearly neglected. And he's got to do a SAT, a standard assessment. And the title was something like A Holiday to Remember. And he just looks up at the teacher and just said, well, I've never had a holiday, miss. It's terribly sad, isn't it? When other children off to Disney World and wherever. So I still am optimistic about young people, but they do deserve the best the world can give them. And if anything in my books, I celebrate young people, celebrate their humour, their wit, their cleverness, their sharpness of mind. I think that's been something which lifts people's spirits a bit.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.